All right, let's go over the pass optimal and GPP lineups for the PGA Championship. This, of course, is looking at every single year that DraftKings has held contests for the PGA Championship and taking a look at which lineups have been successful, what kinds of lineups have been successful. So I'm going to throw this up on the screen. You can find this at SweetSpotDFS.com. This is a cheat sheet. I do have 3 tabs up here, 3 buttons that you can drill into. I've got a PGA Champ button just for this tournament until the Truist Championship concludes. Once that tournament is over, I am recording this while that's in progress. That will just automatically be for this week. So you can see the Truist Championship is there. I could add the PGA Champ to the next week button, but I think it's best here because you get salary information. You're going to see some emptiness for week 1, but I only wanted to provide this for salaries, just so you can see, because this video is primarily talking about salaries. Before I get into all of this, though, I just want to go back a little bit and remind you guys that I've got giveaways that are happening this week. One being a Win the Pot giveaway. Basically, for every 1 new subscriber, I'm adding $2 to this pot, and it starts at $20. So no matter what, I'm giving away $20. And then once my live video, I stream live on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. For every subscriber that I gain from today until then, and I've kind of subscriber stamped this all the way over to the left. You can see I'm at 943. That's where I started this giveaway. So for how many new subscribers there are on this channel, that's what number I will take to add to the pot, and whatever that is on Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, that's what I'm giving away. Now, if you want to enter into this, be subscribed first and foremost, and then comment down below. Comment down below. For this video, tell me if you're going to play anybody in the 5K range. Just put a yes, or I will be playing golfers in the 5K range. Doesn't matter how you word it. Comment down below. For every 1 comment, you get an entry. I shouldn't say for 1 comment. 1 comment per video. And I'm going to be putting out a lot of content this week. So stay tuned. Pay attention. If you see a video of mine that gets posted out there, go into the comment section, provide your comment, whatever it is, doesn't matter what it is, and that's how you will get an entry into this Win the Pot giveaway. Now, there are other giveaways that I'm doing. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys go check out how to gain entries there. You can find a video link in the description down below. Go check that out, and that will give you more ways to win. But I'm going to leave this here. I've kind of already discussed in length during the player by player, the DraftKings first look video. So if you want more information, go check out that one. But let's go ahead and get back into past optimal and GPP winning lineups. Now, like I said, I do have a cheat sheet out there for you guys at SweetSpotDFS.com. You do not need an account for this. This cheat sheet is free for you guys. So under PGA Champ, the button that you see here, you will see the golfers in the field currently and their salaries. Another tool that I have, it's called Historic Salary Builds. And you can find this under the Fantasy Tools, Historic Salary Builds. This is behind a paywall, so you will have to be a member in order to see this. Now, I like using this tool as well as the Pass Optimal and GPP Winning Lineups tool. Again, under Fantasy Tools, go down to Pass Optimal and GPP Winning Lineups. And basically, what this just gives you is kind of a good zoomed out level as to what types of lineups are successful. I have GPP winning lineup. So if you drill down onto this button, all you will see are GPP winning lineups. And this mostly covers all the $5 Drive the Green contest. But if there was ever a Millionaire Maker contest like there will be at the PGA Championship this week, I include that one instead of the Drive the Green contest. So to word that differently, you will see either the Millie Maker lineup or you will see the $5 Drive the Green lineup. And this is the winning lineup. This is the one that won first place prize. The optimal lineup should be self-explanatory. It's the best lineup that you can build, period. And you can see how much money was used in order to build that lineup. Sometimes you leave a lot of money on the table, and that can be somewhat unrealistic to build. So then I created the SweetSpot Optimal, which is looking at any lineup that uses $49,600 of the salary and above, and just finds out what is that best lineup that follows that criteria. Now, if the SweetSpot Optimal matches the optimal lineup for any given week, I will then take the second best lineup that uses $49,600 and above. So this is like a more realistic lineup for you guys to build. The optimal lineup sometimes just is, you just can't get there. It's almost impossible. So I used to always talk about the optimal lineup and, hey, you need all of these golfers, or you need these types of golfers. You need to leave this much money on the table or somewhere in here. I kind of stopped doing that because I realized it is much more difficult to hit the optimal lineup than it is to hit the SweetSpot Optimal, which is you limit your constraints, or I should say you maximize your constraints, and it will only allow you to build a limited amount of lineups. That way, it's easier to hit. The less amount of lineups you can build, the better it is, the better chances you have to hit that lineup. Whereas, like, if you leave $1,000 on the table or $2,000 on the table, the amount of combinations of lineups you can build exponentially gets larger. It will go from 500,000 different types of lineups to like 3 trillion different kinds of lineups. So we are not looking to do that. I do not advise to leave a lot of money on the table, just $49,600 and above, just $400 at most, and you can build yourself a very high quality lineup. Do not worry about dupes. Really, do not worry about dupes. If you win, you win, man. Like, you're going to win a lot of money. So with that being said, again, we have 3 different types of lineups. Now, for these tools, you can do several different ways of research. One, just go into the tournament and type in PGA Championship. Simple as that. That's the tournament that we're looking at, and you can see the most common lineup builds. Now, this is very interesting because there isn't one type of build that's the most common. For this PGA Championship, you got a 10-8, 3 7s, and a 6. 10-8-8, 2 7s, and a 6. 10-9, 3 7s, and a 6. 10-9-8, 7 7 6. That's the most common lineup build. If I take the PGA Championship out of here, and you look to see the most common lineup build is a 10-9-8, 7 7 6, 146 records. That's 12% of the lineups that it's 12% of all lineups that I keep track of. The next nearest one is 6.5, or well, basically just 6%. That's a 10-9-8, 7 6 6. Then it's a 10-8-8, 7 7 6, followed by a 10-9, 3 7s, and a 6. You kind of get the gist here. You want a 10K golfer, you want a 7K golfer, and you want a 6K golfer. It really depends on if you want a 9 and an 8, or 2 8s, or just 1 9. Like, that's what kind of lineups you get. And here's the beautiful thing about this tool. You can actually drill into each of these lineups, scroll down, and over this whole summary page that's down at the bottom, or the table here, you can see where those lineups were built, or where those lineups came from. So you can see the tournament name, the type of lineup it was, the salary used, the max salary. That means what was the most expensive golfer in that lineup. And then you can see the minimum salary. What was the cheapest golfer in that lineup? You can do that for all of this. But like I was saying before, there are different ways of researching this. So PGA Championship, it's kind of a hodgepodge of different types of lineups. Here's a little summary box here. You see the little 6 dark boxes, the black boxes on the screen? This allows you to see, of all the lineups that were built, how many of them included a 10K golfer, how many included a 9, an 8, a 7, a high 6K golfer, or a low 6K golfer. So 76% of these lineups for the PGA Championship included a 10K golfer. Now, I said there are different ways to research this. Here's another one that I like to do. I like to use this salary used. You can see it is mostly for historic lineup filters. So the page we're currently on, like I told you, I don't want to leave more than $400 on the table. So I'm going to go $49,600 as the the least amount of salary used that I want to apply to a lineup. I X out of this. I was hoping to see some of these numbers change, but it doesn't quite look like that. I was thinking we'd probably see more 10K golfers, but we do see some 9K, some lineups that start with a 9K golfer. It is worth mentioning that only 3 lineups do not include a 10K golfer. Actually, 4 total lineups. This 999, 2 7s, and a 6, if we drill down on that, you can see that was the 2018 PGA Championship for the Sweet Spot Optimal and the Optimal lineup. You can drill out of that and go look at the other 2 lineups down here that did not include a 10K golfer, the 2021 PGA Championship for the Sweet Spot Optimal. And then for the last lineup here, it is also the 2021 PGA Championship. So, and that was the GPP winning lineup. Here's the thing that I want to mention. Those were 2 years. Did you recognize that? So if you hold the control button and we just select all of the 9Ks, it was 2018 and 2021. Now that was the Sweet Spot Optimal, the GPP, the Sweet Spot Optimal, the Optimal. If I were to actually clear all the filters, type in PGA Champ again, then I drill into here. Actually, let's keep this the same, but we want to look at 2021 and 2020 or 2018. We look at all of the lineups. Okay, I didn't have a GPP winner for the 2018 PGA Championship, but I was wondering, of the missing lineup from 2021, did it use a 10K golfer? And it did not. So those 2 years, there were no 10K golfers, but every single year since then. So again, that was 2018, 2021. If you scroll down on this box and we look, 2017 is when I started. I mean, that's basically when DraftKings started creating contests for PGA, but it's also where I started keeping track of each of the lineups. So if you go through all the years, 2017, there was a 10K golfer. 2019, there was a 10K golfer. 2022, 23, 24, and 25. So 6 out of 8 years, a 10K golfer started in any lineup that we looked at, or the successful lineups for the PGA Championship. Now there's another tool, like I said, that I mentioned before, the Pass Optimal and GPP winning lineups. If we kind of do the same thing, so type in PGA Championship here. I think I have everything selected. Let's not select everything and go PGA Champ. And if we take a look at 2018, just to start here, and look at our salaries, the most expensive salaries, you actually have 2 golfers that finish at, 12th place. We only had 4 total 10K golfers in 2018. Just 4. That's worth mentioning. If you didn't already notice, for this week, we have 7 10K golfers. 7. That is almost double the amount of 10K golfers. That is definitely worth mentioning. If we look at 2021, do we have kind of the same thing? We don't. We had 6 10K golfers. So, and then Jon Rahm finished 8th. He could have he had the potential to be in a winning lineup. I'm surprised he wasn't. How did this all shake out? Oh, this is the Phil Mickelson lineup, or the Phil Mickelson year. Oh, wow. Okay. And Rahm didn't even score that well of DraftKings points. He must have just had all pars and very little birdies. Okay. Here's a fun thing to do. You can drill down on GPP winner just to see what the GPP winning lineup was. You can see how many points were scored, 501.5. And you can see total ownership, all that good stuff. If I drill out of there, can I build a Rahm lineup that actually would have taken down a GPP? Here's how you do this. You just hover over the golfer you want, hold the control button down. So I'll select Jon Rahm, and you can see up here total salary, points, all that stuff gets updated. Well, let's make sure we have the winner in there, Phil Mickelson. Let's go ahead, put Brooks in there. Let's go ahead, put Louis in there. How about Paul Casey at 7,700? And then it shows, if you can just do quick math, I've got $7,600 left to pick my 6th golfer. 7,600. I don't see anybody that's close enough that would work. I don't want to leave a lot of money on the table because I'm a big proponent of not leaving a lot of money on the table. How about this? We can get rid of Paul Casey and maybe we put in Abe Answer, and that leaves us with $6,400. No, $7,400. We can put Ricky Fowler in this lineup. Okay, so something like this would have worked. Oh, it does not score enough points. Okay, so we can't do that. I think we have to put in somebody who scored just a little bit more points. It's because John Rahm didn't score a lot of points. That's why. Let's see, what can I find? You know what? I'm gonna have to do this a different way. Let's go DK points from top to bottom. Let's put in all of the expensive golfers. Louis. Oh, Justin Rose was $8,100. Well, we want Brooks, so we want those 3 golfers for sure. I do want to come down here and pick up Rahm right away. I'm trying to build a 10-9-8-7-7-6 lineup. That's what I'm trying to do. We have our 6K golfer in Phil Mickelson, and it looks like I have like nearly $1,600 left, 15 and change. Charlie Hoffman, I suppose, works. Can I do Shane Lowry? I can. This lineup wins. So, and I could even go Paul Casey, who scored 1 more point than that last one. So I could score a total of 506 points if I went with John Rahm at 10,500, Brooks Koepka at 9,500, Louis at 8,000. Then I get a 77, a 7,300, and then a $6,700 golfer. So 10-9-8-7-7-6, it scores 506 points. So to get out of there, just drill into a golfer's name, then drill out of it. And again, that GPP winning lineup scored 501.5. So I could have taken down a GPP by building a lineup that used a 10K golfer. So when we come back here and we just look at 2018, you can see none of the successful lineups actually had a 10K golfer in it. You can see it says blank. This is a 9-9-9-7-7-6 lineup. But I just showed you could put a 10K golfer in that lineup to take it down. So now 6 out of 8 years can actually really turn into 7 out of 8 years. And I probably could do the same thing for 2018 if I were to go back to 2018 and try to figure the same thing out. But I'm not going to waste any more of you guys' time doing that. I'll let you guys go ahead and do that. But it does seem like a 10K golfer matters. And let's be real. I mean, most of you guys, I can already hear some of the critics saying this. Well, no kidding. The 10K golfers have the best golfers in the field. Yep. I'm acknowledging that. But where some people try to get cute and skip the 10K range and say, I'm not playing the 10K range, I'm going to go play the 9K range, and then try to pick out golfers there, it's one of those things like, it's a comfort thing. I'm giving you guys the data to show you that, oh yeah, 10K golfers are important this week. You should try to play a 10K golfer. I think that's very important. Also, to go further with that, I think this is a Scotty Scheffler week, which I'm sure if you're just coming to if you're a casual and you just come to this channel and you're like, oh, wow, that's really cool. You're picking the best golfer in the world. Wow, you're really going off a ledge. I literally last week just talked about how Scotty Scheffler does not pay off his price tag, and I do not want to play Scotty Scheffler anymore. I don't want to play him when he's $14,000 or more, and he's $13,009, but we can consider that $14,000. Why did I say that? It's because there wasn't a 5K range. It's because anytime there's a 6K range when Scotty is 14,000 or more, there aren't enough golfers in this 6K range that are remotely good, or even in the 5K range that are remotely good. But we have good golfers in both of these ranges this week. And if you wanted to compare, this week's salaries to any other time where a $14,000 golfer was successful, let's do 13.4. I'm doing 13.4 because last year, the PGA Championship, Scotty was $13,400. So if you go in here, oh, this is the wrong way. Wrong way to do this. I don't want to go there. I want to go highest price golfer. That's what I want to do. So 13,400. Go ahead, drill into that. And then I want to select all tournaments except for the Tour Championship. So I deselect Tour Championship. And these are going to be all of the lineups that there was a $14,000 golfer or a $13,400 golfer and better, and what the lineup construction looked like. The most common lineup build is a 10-8, 2 7s, and 2 6s. So if you drill into that, you'll see which contests that or which events that pertain to. So it's really just technically 3 different events, but you can also drill out of that, drill into this one, and you can see the other ones that were successful. And then furthermore, what I would take with that information is the tournament name and the year it was played at, and you come right into here. We already looked at this page, but for just to show you how this looks like. So if I type in AT&T Pebble Beach and we look at 2026, go back to here, and it was the SweetSpot Optimal. So I'll go into the SweetSpot Optimal and take a look. Here was your lineup that won. This was Scotty Scheffler at 14,000. This did not have a 5K range, by the way. And the way to figure that out is you deselect the lineup that you wanted to choose, and you can actually sort from top to bottom, bottom to top. You can see what the cheapest golfer was. It was a $6,000 golfer. But since we're so close to this type of lineup build, or this type of price for Scotty at 14,000, he's 13.9, you can see what that lineup looked like. So it should give you a little bit more confidence picking a golfer like this. Now, I would much rather you guys at home find the lineups where there was a 5K range. And I'm gonna help you out on that. It's gonna be all the major championships from last year. And that's where you finally see Scotty Scheffler north of 13,000. It's where you see any golfer north of 13. I didn't put a Scotty Scheffler filter in here. I put a price filter in here. So anytime there was a golfer 13.4 and above, you can see the lineup. So PGA Championship, Charles Schwab Challenge, the US Open, the Open. So let's go and take a look at each of those. I'm going to start with Charles Schwab because it's going to be the hardest one for me to remember. So if we put in the Charles Schwab and we go GPP winning lineup from last year, 2025. Here you go. Here's what that lineup looked like in full totality. 13-7, 8-7, 7-8, 6-9, 6-7, 6-2. Okay, that was the Charles Schwab Challenge. I think what, the SweetSpot Optimal also had it? No, the Optimal lineup had it? Sorry, it's thinking. Yeah, the Optimal lineup had it. Okay, that was a Charles Schwab. Let's start at the PGA Championship last year. I'm going to get rid of... Actually, the Optimal lineup works too. This left a lot of money on the table. I don't want that. I don't want that. Let's go GPP winner. Here's what a winning lineup last year at the PGA Championship looked like. You had Scheffler, Neiman, Bradley, English, Pendrith, Davis. They're all PGA Tour winners. Just throwing that out there. They've all won on the PGA Tour. Every single one of them. So 13-4, 9-6, 7-2, 6-8, 6-7, 6-3. So if you're building a Scotty Scheffler lineup this week, it's probably going to look somewhat similar to this. He's going to be 13-9. You're going to want to make a decision on, if you do play a 9K golfer, I think you can only play 1 7K, and then you've got to add 3 6s and maybe a 5K, 2 6s and a 5 or something like that. Or you go 13-8, then maybe 2 7s and 2 6s. So that was one lineup. Here's another way. Oh, no, we don't want to look at that. Let's look at this one. Look at this. Here we do drop into the 5K range. Throwing that out there. 13-4 with then $11,500. If we went back to the cheat sheet, what do we see at the top of the leaderboard? 13-9, 12-4, or maybe a 10-9. You could go Scotty and Bryson again if you wanted to. I don't know if you can do Scotty and Rory, but if you take a look at this type of lineup build, it incorporates 68, 67, 61, 55. And again, the most common denominator here, they're all PGA Tour winners. Each and every one of them, PGA Tour winners. Let's go to the US Open. The US Open, I think, is one of the more interesting lineup builds. So if we take a look at the SweetSpot Optimal for the US Open, $14,400 Scotty, $8,500 Victor. So there's that 14 down to an 8. Then it's just only 1-7. I said you probably want 2 7s, but this only has 1-7. Then you have a 67, 67, 64. These golfers' names are all pretty good. Like Bobby Mack at $6,700 seems, seems criminal to some extent. $6,700 JJ Spahn, $7,100 Sam Burns, $8,500 Victor Hovland. This only works if, this expensive of a golfer only works if they win or someone in the cheap range wins, like they did, like the US Open had. You look at the GPP winning lineup for that week, it was kind of identical, almost exactly the same, except for this one had Adam Scott. I don't think the other one did. And that's, again, 14-8, 7, 6, 6, 6. Now, you will see that those numbers are slightly different on this page when it comes to how I categorize their salaries. It has a lot to do with the conversion that I do. So if you go to the cheat sheet, under Fantasy Tools cheat sheet, and you scroll down to the bottom and you click here, this will open up a new cheat sheet. I'll zoom in for you guys so you can see this. On the bottom of this cheat sheet is called price conversion. And this is what I do whenever there's a 5K range. I want to be transparent with that to you guys. I do this every single time there's a 5K range. And the purpose is I want to move that 5K range up to the 6K range. I do not want to deal with 5Ks because if we look at all the years that DraftKings has ever put out contests, they have a 5K range. They have a 6K range. They don't drive down into the 5K range. That's only for like major championships. Every other event, they have a 6K is the minimum price. So that's what I convert. And basically that all I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get all the salaries that are adjusted to equal the average salary for every single event dating back to 2017. And the average salary in every contest is about $7,000. So that means, I do another thing too. Let me back up a little bit. We normally see somewhere between 4 to 5 10K golfers. We normally see somewhere between 6 to 7 9K golfers. You always see about 10 8K golfers. And then you always see about 35 7K golfers. That's all in a 156-man field, which that's how many golfers we have in the field this week. So I'm sticking to a couple averages that have been consistent over the DraftKings history. Like I said, 4 to 5 10K golfers, 6 to 7 9K golfers, which I have 7. I have 5 10s, 7 9s converted, remember, 10 8s, 35 7s. And then the rest, just I break it down as it would make sense. And then I try to average the salaries out to equal about $7,000. It is very easy to do all these conversions for the 69 and 6400. That's just kind of eyeballing it, finding different thresholds, and just making the conversions that way. It gets a little bit trickier in the 7K range, but it gets back to being easier up here. And whether or not Scheffler is 13,200 versus 13,400 doesn't really matter. This doesn't really matter. I think 13,200 is probably the right price. If I look back at all DraftKings contests before 2025, the most expensive that you ever saw a golfer was $13,300. I think it was either 13,000 or 13,300. So I'm right there in line with historical DraftKings salaries. So if you want to take a look at this is free. You guys can come to this page all you want. Again, all you got to do is go to SweetSpotDFS.com, under Fantasy Tools, check the cheat sheet, or click on cheat sheet, scroll down on the page until you find this cheat sheet right here, and then click this button that says click here. And then that'll open up and you can see the price conversions there. But I only mention that because some of these lineups have a 5K golfer in them. So I think it was if we were to go to the Open instead of the US Open. So if we drill down on the Open Championship, let's see. Yeah, so Hao Tong Lee was $5,700 for the optimal lineup. If I go to the historic salary builds and we look at the optimal lineup, you can see I'm counting this lineup build as a 10-8-7-7-6-6. That has a lot to do with the price conversion that I made for that week. So again, despite there being a $5,700 golfer, I counted that as a $6,000 golfer because when we come down here, 57 for this week would kind of count as a $6,600 golfer in previous DraftKings tournaments. I know that might be confusing, but if you are using these tools, I'm just being transparent with you so you guys understand. And that's why you can build a Scottie Scheffler lineup this week, is because those 5K golfers effectively drop Scheffler's price down to like $13,200. You know, if we take a look at it from a different way, if let's see here. I'm going to bring this over here and we'll zoom in a little bit. If we take Scheffler at 13,900 and say 6K was the cheapest golfer on the slate, that means the most quality golfer that you might be able to pick up would be a $6,600 golfer. So this would allow you to have $7,300 remaining, which isn't terrible, but it also limits what you can do with lineups. If I take Brennan out and now I can play a 5,700 or 50, let's take Hao Tong Lee, nearly the same price. We put him into our lineups. Now we have $7,600 left. That $300 per golfer for the next remaining 4 golfers effectively is like another $1,200. So that makes Scottie Scheffler lineups that much more palatable this week. I just wanted to mention that. So I'm going to leave you there. This one went a little bit longer than I had anticipated, but it was fun to do a little bit of a deep dive and get into, you know, the nitty gritty of the 5K range and Scheffler at $13,700 or $13,900. Yeah. Use SweetSpotDFS.com for all your tools, all your research. There's a link for it in the description of this video. And hopefully I will see you in the next couple videos, because again, the more you comment, the more you participate, the more entries you get into the Win the Pot giveaway. So hope to see you in all the other videos. Tuesday night, I'll run that giveaway. Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Until then, see you all later. Bye-bye.